and welcome to The Human Flow, the show where we'll be talking about the human side of software delivery and yes, DevOps. Our conversation today was born out of a tweet that I originally published asking my colleagues for advice, and to which our today's guest responded that it would take more than a tweet to answer that question. And that led to this interview and hopefully to a whole series of interviews and shows. But the time will show. Here is the tweet, and here is what Mike has responded to it. And now let's start. Hello everyone who's watching. Today we have Mike Rosado with us. Mike, from what I know about you is you've been very active in the DevOps Days organization for a number of years now, and you've been the moderator at the recent All Day DevOps, which was a massive event with something like 1 million participants all over the world.
Yeah, I wish it was 1 million.
Yeah, but into tens of thousands, wasn't it?
Oh yes, definite. Yeah. I think we had somewhere like I want to say it was somewhere over 30,000.
Impressive,
yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so that's pretty much all I know about you. So we'll start with some interrogation into where you are today and where you're coming from. First of all, how long have you been in information technology for?
Oh wow. Let me see. I want to say I've been in the IT world probably a little bit over 25 years.
Oh.
So, I mean, I started my career and a good chunk of it was working at Microsoft. Mm-hmm. I wore different hats over there at Microsoft, but before that I worked for a Novell Platinum reseller. So, it's been a while. So, and then when I left Microsoft, I moved into the DevOps space because I really became very... it sounded like I was it was where I needed to be because it kind of fit with my beliefs.
I see. So when was the first time you heard the word DevOps?
Yeah. So probably it was the first time, I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago. And then I applied for a scholarship to attend a chef conf in San Francisco, California. Mm-hmm. And actually it was in California, but it wasn't in San Francisco. It was close by. And I attended it, and it's like immediately I fell in love. I said, this definitely is the place I need to be.
Okay, I see. And then when did you became active in the DevOps Days thing?
Yeah, as soon as I came back, as soon as I came back from that conference, mm-hmm. I started looking for meetups in my area related to DevOps and joined a couple of meetups, started attending that, and then from there, by attending one of the meetups, somebody just came up with the idea, said, let's start a DevOps Days conference. And then I said, oh, that's great. I'd love to participate in that. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got involved with the DevOps Days organization. And then we began, doing the conference in Dallas about 3 years ago, was our first conference. And I led that kind of conference and got all the organizers, and we started putting all that together. And then went from there, and then got asked to go speak at DevOps Days Cuba, and and we kept moving on. And then I was invited to be part of the core organizers of DevOps Days.
I see. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for that, for all the work you're investing into that. So, okay, that was about history. So let's jump into the here and now for a moment.
Sure.
What would you say are your main points of interest, if it's professionally or somewhere near that today?
I would say I like helping customers out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of the help that I've done recently have been in the community, kind of giving back to the community. But mainly, I get a lot of joy when I help customers remove roadblocks. So that's my main point. But I like the education part as well.
Oh, that's great.
So,
you said roadblocks, and I see it written right here in my next question, because the question was actually what would you say are the main roadblocks to effective collaboration in IT? I know it's a big question.
It's a tough question because it depends. Every organization is a little bit different, so roadblocks, what could be roadblocks for one company may not be roadblocks for another. But what I see a lot is the part that people keep, instead of tearing down silos, they keep building them up. They keep creating DevOps teams and these type of things. It should not exist. We should not be creating roadblocks. Creating more silos, for example. And now I've seen a lot of people creating SRE teams as well. So instead of tearing down those walls and having them, each people communicate and collaborate with each other, these teams keep popping up all over the place, and I think that's a big issue that we should try to get rid of.
Why would you say it's happening? Like, after all the conversations that we've been having, and after all the books that were published and everything, and we're still stuck in the old ways of action. Why?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of it might. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the management. I think if management stepped back a little bit and tried to absorb what's happening with regards to the teams, they would probably understand a little bit better and say, maybe we shouldn't have teams and just have, either the developers have, just have developers, call them a QA, call them, system engineer, and have them collaborate with each other as opposed to, go in and creating teams. But a lot of corporations have always had that mindset of having teams, and then they talk about reorganizing, and then restructuring the organization into teams, and then they may mix the QA with engineers and all that into a team, but they still have that concept of teams, setting up teams, and then when things don't work out, then they start talking about, well, let's do team building exercises. Well, if we didn't have teams, we would have the need to do team building exercises.
Yeah. On the other hand, this is the way that we humans deal with complexity.
Right.
When we have a lot of elements, we tend to separate them into smaller entities so that it can become manageable and comprehensible. So is there a way around this?
That's a good question. I think you could. I still think that setting up the teams is still it's tough, because when you set these teams up, they're, how can I say, they become they get into a competitive mode, and instead of competing with each other, we should be helping each other, not competing against each other because that team is better than my team and so forth. It's something tough, and in bigger organizations, it's even tougher. When we're talking about thousands of employees, that's even tougher, to do.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely size is a problem. Yeah, scale.
Yeah, scaling.
It accelerates everything and enhances the system of problems, as
Right.
Dr. Eckhoff used to call it.
Exactly.
Accelerates the mess. Okay. Another question.
Sure.
We're dealing, after all we're collaborating around is information technology. So taking a step back a little bit, do you believe that the technology is making our world a better place?
That's a very interesting question. To some sense, it is. It is making the world a better place, but it gets to a point where that sometimes technology also can at some point be a roadblock, because people get so involved in technology that they forget about the human interaction, the human piece of communicating with other humans. You see, a lot of people think that artificial intelligence is going to be the replace-all for everything, and that's going to take over, and people are going to be without jobs. And in reality, it's not true. I mean, I don't think our great-grandchildren will see that eventually. It's going to be tough. But I think that it's software and technology is making a world a better place, is that we need to, how can I say, take, also like you said, a step back and reevaluate things and think that people, what's making that technology and those people work, it's people. So keep that in mind always. Don't think that just because you see something on Slack or you see something in an application or on a phone that there's always somebody behind all of that. So always keep that in mind, that there's human interaction, and we should all treat each other, humanly.
So what I'm getting from your answers is actually something that I can relate to very much. When we were talking about roadblocks, you were saying that it's teams, the way we structure teams and interactions between humans in an organization, that's becoming the major roadblocks on the way to effective collaboration. And then when we're talking about technology, again, what you're saying, as I heard it, is technology is great, but we can't forget the human factor. So would you say that regarding DevOps transformation, regarding the DevOps way, are we still a little bit behind on the human part, on whatever is related to the humans? Because, technology has been changing very fast. The tool set that we have today is very different from the tool set that we had 5 years ago, when was the first time you heard about DevOps.
Yeah. I think that everybody's trying. The way I see it evolving is that people are trying to make, like you said, they're using technology to make things better, but people are kind of overcomplicating themselves sometimes in trying to make more tools to make things a lot better when reality DevOps is not all about tools, Yes, it is to a sense, because you have when you look at the values of DevOps, which is, collaboration, automation, metrics, and sharing, you have two pieces in there. You have several pieces in there where the humans are going to interact with each other, but a lot of people are focusing on getting more tools, better tools to make things happen faster. And that's fine, but you can't, you have to remember that there are people that are making these tools. So you have to kind of work with those people also, not just think about that it's the tools that are going to make it get better and faster, but it's the human factor that's making that happen.
Okay. So I think it's a good time now for the really hard question that the one that I asked on Twitter, and you said that this takes more than a tweet or even more than a few tweets. So I was talking about a situation that it was something that I encountered at a customer, and it wasn't the first time that I saw this. So what we had was a large IT development organization, and there was this team leader who just got hired, and what he inherited was an ops team that was demotivated and burnt out. There were senior engineers who were working there for a long time, and they're already, exhausted by the constant load and by the lack of positive change and by the need to support a monolithic legacy application and unreliable deployments. So there were those senior folks who know the application from A to Z, and they know all the pain points, and they're quite skeptical, and they don't really believe that anything can be changed. On the other side, we have the juniors, who some of them are just not knowledgeable enough, and the others, the ones they're getting knowledgeable and more experienced, they're looking for their way out of the door because they want new technologies, they want change, and the organization is on the way to change. Okay, the management does want to change, and they're bringing in new tech, containers, Kubernetes, you name it, and they're trying to rewrite the legacy code, but it's happening slowly because the organization has hard time hiring new staff because the current situation is far from optimistic. So if you were that team leader who got this team and you're in that situation, what would be the first things that you do to know? As I see, like the most important thing in this situation is to raise the team spirit, to somehow bring in the belief that the change is possible, because right now there is a lot of skepticism in the air. And it's a hard problem. I know it's a hard problem.
Yeah, it is a hard. When I saw it when you tweeted it out, I thought it is a hard problem. But I would, as a team leader, I thought it was a manager that was having this problem. But as a team leader, I would probably speak to management, and if it's a big organization, that means it goes beyond that person's team. So I would kind of talk to management and say, look, this is what I would like to do and propose, and take the juniors that are not. I would probably take the juniors, have one-on-ones with them, get as much feedback as I can from them, and also have one-on-ones with the seniors and get feedback from them, kind of compile all that feedback together. And then eventually what I would do is talk to the management and say, I would like to pair up one of these juniors with a senior, but not of my team, but with a senior of another team, because that way it's not in the same, it's not part of the same team, so they're going to be a little bit more flexible in collaborating with that junior than if it was from their own team, because they're probably, if it was from their own team, they're probably saying, well, this person is probably here to take my job, and that's not what you really want to do. So I would try to pair them up with somebody from another team so they could kind of learn the ropes, get a little bit more of what that other senior person does in their role. And then do the same thing with the seniors, try to find other juniors in other groups and try to pair them up and try to get them talking to each other, and then after that, then kind of bring them all together and say, look, we're not trying to eliminate positions, we're just trying to, bring everybody up to speed at the same time, at the same place, and do the same work, and eventually, changes are going to come. So we want to make sure that everybody's up to speed when those changes get here. You see, so I would try to do that, is get a lot of the feedback and try to feel out from the seniors, why are they skeptical? Why is it that they don't think things are going to change? Because things are changing, but it's just, not as fast as they want it to change. And try to get that and see if you can work out the skepticisms, and then try to take the juniors' feedback and try to figure out, why is it that they want to learn so much and then leave, when change is coming, it's just going to, sometimes people need to understand that in big companies, let's say like in the IBMs of the world or Microsoft or other big companies, things don't change overnight. They change, but it takes a little bit of work to get the change to happen.
Sure. I know what you're talking about. It's very easy to say when you're a consultant, standing a little bit outside and having that look when you say you just need a little bit of patience. But when you're inside, it's very hard to keep your calm. But sure, I know what you're talking about. It takes a lot of moral support on the part of the management. The management has to provide the backbone to be the amortization.
Right, they kind of have to support you, give you that ability to, if they're asking for your help, they kind of need to give you that support. Yeah, but it's a tough situation because, you have to get a buy-in and get the you have to get that honest feedback from both sides, to figure out, what action plan you're really going to take.
Okay. I liked the way you started the solution with the sharing of knowledge between the seniors and the juniors, because I wholeheartedly believe that sharing the knowledge in the organization is one of the ways that you actually start the change. Now, that takes us back to the community work that you've been doing with, spreading the word about the DevOps Days and moderating the All Days DevOps conference. So, what I'd like to ask you, as an activist and a thought leader in the DevOps world, is maybe some recommendations for the recent books, posts, articles that you thought, or talks maybe, that you thought were especially interesting and especially important to the way that the DevOps thought is developing?
As far as books are concerned, there are two books that really come to mind that are great. It's the DevOps Handbook, which everybody already knows about it, and a lot of people have read, but there's still a lot of people out there that don't even know about it. And there's another great book on kind of helps with the culture is the Effective DevOps. It's a great book as well. Okay. I mean, those are two kind of books I would recommend. Recently, I saw, you probably had a chance to see, I'm not sure if you have, there was at DAWS, there was a lady speaking on burnout. I don't remember her name right now. She's a doctor at Berkeley, and she gave a great presentation on burnout. That's something that, as humans, we need to, we need to keep an eye on. And it's not only on yourself, but on others maybe around you. Keep a close eye because, trying to work at a fast pace and quickly, people kind of get stressed out and eventually that stress out can lead to burnout. So that's something that you need to keep an eye not only for yourself, but your peers, your coworkers around you. Make sure that they're not becoming overwhelmed, with all the work they have to do in a short period of time.
Yeah, sure. Know what you're talking about. Actually, I remember John Willis had a series of talks dedicated to burnout a couple of years ago.
Right.
And at the time, he was probably the only one speaking about it. And then somehow that, quieted out a little bit. And now we see this discussion is coming up again.
Right. He actually was the one that invited this doctor from Berkeley to come to DevOps Enterprise Summit to give that talk. And I'm telling you, she gave an excellent talk. You have to go watch it if you haven't.
No, I haven't yet. I've read the papers, and there was a lot of discussion on the social media before that. And there was this also the RE conference before that I think had a lot of references to the burnout and the human factors in the IT delivery. Yeah. And sure. It's very, very, very important, and it also comes to show that DevOps, beside speeding up the delivery, we were always also hoping that it would normalize the human interactions and the way that we humans work, because we always say that the secret to effective productivity and effective delivery and effective collaboration is establishing flow. Whereas flow means that you don't push things through forcefully. You let them flow naturally.
Right. Yeah, the thing about it is that people, even though you want it to flow naturally, there's always that human factor wanting to go quickly and rapidly. So they think that the quicker you go, the faster you go, the more productive you're going to be. But if you let things, like you said, flow naturally, it would probably be better.
Yeah, because the fact that we're still talking about burnout and we realize it's an issue means that we're not there yet. We don't have flow. We're still pushing things through, and then we get stuck, and then we say, what can we do about this now?
Exactly.
Yeah. They say the secret to having a stable system is having Slack.
Exactly.
And it's not the messaging client they're referring to.
Right.
And regarding DevOps days, which DevOps days have you visited over the years beside the ones that you organized?
Well, besides the Dallas one, I've been to the Austin one a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say probably the last maybe 2 years. Actually, last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also been to the one in Cuba. I'm hoping to spend some time in the one we're having one in Austin, not Austin, in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a new one that's coming up. I'm trying to see if I could spend some time there with them.
Okay.
But they're popping up all over the place now. Recently, like we had new ones from Tampa, Florida coming up. We have all kinds of new ones kind of popping out of the woodwork. In Brazil, it's just going like crazy, like all over the place. Yeah, they're really growing.
Interesting. Yeah, I know about the other side of the world because
right.
They started having those in Russia, in Moscow last year.
Uh-huh.
And they had the second one this year, and now they have another one in Russia, in Kazan.
Nice.
Interesting. Any other places in the world that you've heard of recently? Like probably any country that they didn't have one and are starting one now?
I think there's been some interest now in, I think Hong Kong is wanting to start one, so.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, they're every place, there's like little things like popping up all over the place.
That's great. That's great. I love seeing that the flame isn't going out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Mike, I'm out of questions, and
okay.
I want to thank you. I know my questions
no problem.
were a little bit on the tough side, but I think you've provided a lot of insights, and I'll be excited to watch this again and edit this, and I'll tell you when it's online.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, I'd like to see what other people think about that, their feedback about that tough question about the, where you have the seniors and the juniors, because that is it's a very interesting topic, to keep discussing with others. I think that's something that's going to, I guess, evolve into getting a better communication and collaboration between, people of different levels, and different, I want to say, subject matter expertise, to where they could share with others, because it's really not about competing with each other. It's about helping each other try to get better, and sometimes seniors can learn things from juniors that they didn't know about, and that's what they, if they have a closed mindset, that they don't believe it, that's where it gets tougher.
Yeah, the issue is, we all have this tendency to close our mindset.
Yes.
Peter Senge was talking about this. He was calling this mental models that we form because they help us understand the world, but then they toughen, and then
yes.
they keep us from understanding the world because the world is changing and the mental models don't do.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually the discussion around that was interesting. I asked the question on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and everybody's answering from his own experience, from her own experience, and there were folks even, coming up and saying you should fire all the juniors and let the seniors concentrate on their work.
That's wrong.
Or
completely wrong.
Or fire all them skeptical seniors, hire motivated juniors, and let them work days and nights.
I'm not saying that there might be a time where you might need to maybe release one of them from the work because they're just so close-minded. But I think everybody is, I still have the benefit of the doubt that there are people that even though because they're seniors, they are open to change. I think everybody is in a point where they're open to change. You just have to get their feedback to understand why they feel either skeptical or wanting to leave. Because they may have a misconception that needs to be cleared up.
Right. Right. Yeah, the question is always also
feedback.
Get their feedback, and how do you get them, the people around you, to believe that you're making the change for their good and not
right.
not for the good of
the company. Yeah.
The company.
Yeah. Where
is that alignment between the company's good and the human good?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, tough questions. We'll keep discussing them.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Always
Thank you for having
talking
me.
to you, and I'll see you on the social media.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.